Hello again and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Olarinde. A very Merry Christmas to you and your family. The world today kicks off in Israel. A bleak Christmas in the country as the war in Gaza have overshadowed celebrations. According to Palestinian Minister of Tourism, Rula Maya, the whole world is celebrating Christmas but not Bethlehem. Outside Bethlehem's Byzantine-era Church of the Nativity, it's all empty, a stark contrast to previous Christmas celebrations where there were joyful displays of lights and trees in Manger Square and also lots of tourists. Well, this year, however, Palestinian Christians held a somber Christmas vigil in Bethlehem on Saturday, December 23rd, with candle-lit hymns and prayers for peace in Gaza instead of the usual festive celebrations at the spot where they believe Jesus Christ was born.
The whole world is celebrating Christmas this year, but not Bethlehem, not the birthplace of our Lord Jesus Christ. Bethlehem is celebrating Christmas with sadness and sorrow because of what's happening in Gaza and in all the West Bank, all Palestinian territories. Like other years, we used to celebrate Christmas with joy and happiness, with scouts and people coming from all Palestinian governorates and with tourists from all over the world. Unfortunately, this year we're receiving Christmas without tourists from the world and without Palestinians from other governorates because of the war in Gaza. We cannot talk about tourists now because we don't have any tourists now, but from the beginning of the year until the end of September, we had more than 2.3 million tourists that arrived to Palestine. But since the war until now, we have no tourists in Palestine, and especially here in Bethlehem.
In the meantime, Christian worshippers attended a Christmas Mass at the Church of the Nativity in the West Bank town of Bethlehem. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, Pier Battista Pizzaballa, led the service in the town, revered by Christians as Jesus' place of birth. Well, with Israel's war in Gaza having killed about 20,000 people, according to the Palestinian health authorities, the mostly Palestinian population of Bethlehem in the occupied West Bank say they are in mourning. Earlier on, the Latin Patriarch Pier Battista Pizzaballa arrived in Bethlehem, the traditional birthplace of Jesus, on Sunday for Christmas events. This year, it was decided to have no Christmas festivities because of the war in Gaza. Well, while heading to Church of the Nativity, Pizzaballa said the message of Christmas is not violence, it's peace.
It is a very sad Christmas, as we saw. There is no atmosphere of feast because we are in a war, terrible war, and our thought goes first and foremost to Gaza, to our people of Gaza, to all the people of Gaza, but special attention to our also Christian community of Gaza who is suffering. But I know that we are not the only ones suffering. 2 million are suffering without house, without hungry. They are hungry, unbearable situation, and we are here to pray, but also tonight to ask not just for the ceasefire. Ceasefire is not enough. We have to stop these hostilities and to turn the page, because violence generates only violence, and the message of Christmas is not violence, it's peace.
Well, in the besieged Gaza Strip surrounded by war, Palestinian Christians still gathered inside the church to attend the Christmas Eve service on Sunday. Christmas Eve is observed by Christians around the world ahead of Christmas Day to commemorate the birth of Jesus. Well, under the shadow of the war in Gaza, which is inching closer to the third month, Jesus' birthplace is empty, leaving businesses struggling to keep their doors open. A souvenir shop owner in the iconic Manger Square, Nabil Giakaman, says people are not feeling Christmas, and Bethlehem is very, very sad. The Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem is one of the icons of the Christian world. It is the place where Christians believe Jesus was born and a major destination for tourists and pilgrims around the world. The tourism industry is vital to the Palestinian economy, but due to the war in Gaza, hardly any tourists have arrived, and without them, there is no business.
So this year, as you can see, Bethlehem, it's very empty. It's not normal for us in Bethlehem. It's been like, for me, I'm 38 years old. I've never saw Bethlehem that sad because, you know, the war in Gaza affected us. And it's not, we can't say Gaza is not part of us. Gaza is part of Palestine and Palestine is part of Gaza. So you can feel no atmosphere, people not feeling Christmas, and Bethlehem is very, very sad. And as you know also as well, all the checkpoints and all the entrance for Bethlehem are all closed. So people are not allowed, even the one who lives in Jerusalem or all over, they are not allowed to come to Bethlehem. So the Christians, as you can see, of the Holy Land, they are not allowed to celebrate Christmas in Bethlehem. It's been like 75 years we've been suffering as Palestinians, and we should have an end for the occupation. We need freedom. We deserve it. We are normal like other humans. We are normal like all over the world. We deserve it. And someone should stop what's going on in Gaza. It's a genocide. They are killing a lot of kids. Economically, I don't want to talk about economically because for me, money doesn't make any sense when you look at all of these kids that they are getting killed in Gaza.
Joining us now is Linda Gradside, the VOA's correspondent in Jerusalem. Hello, Linda. Merry Christmas to you. A bleak Christmas, however, we're seeing in Bethlehem. How are festivities across Israel and the West Bank going?
Well, it's a somber mood across the whole country. I mean, everywhere. You know, Israel, they're a very small Christian population, mostly in Nazareth in the north and in Haifa, which is a mixed city. And the mood across everywhere is just very somber and sad about the war. What you saw in Bethlehem, I was in Bethlehem a couple of days ago, and I've never seen Bethlehem that empty. Usually you go to Bethlehem in the days before Christmas and Manger Square is packed and all the shops are open. And what I saw was all the shops are closed. I mean, you could hardly find one. I finally found some Russian Orthodox tourists to speak to. And one kind of burly man said to me, I was an officer in the Russian army. I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of missiles. I'm not afraid of bombs. And so I felt that I had to come here. But the Church of the Nativity is completely empty. It's just a sad time.
Indeed, and one would have thought, you know, perhaps there would be a holiday ceasefire in fighting, but we hear, you know, there have been airstrikes from Israel indicating that fighting has continued nonetheless.
Yes, there is an Egyptian plan to perhaps a three-stage Egyptian plan that's being talked about, in the first stage of which there would be a 2-week ceasefire and Hamas would release 40 of the Israeli hostages, mostly people who were sick or the elderly. And in the second stage, there would be preparation for Palestinian elections and some sort of technocratic government. And then in the third stage, there would be a complete ceasefire. However, it doesn't seem that either Israel or Hamas is going to accept that outline. And, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, visiting troops today, said that the war will continue until the two goals that Israel has set are achieved. The first goal is the release of all of the hostages. There are still about 130 Israeli hostages being held in Gaza, although it's not clear how many of them are alive. And the second goal, Netanyahu said, is to completely eradicate Hamas. Now, Palestinians in Gaza say that Hamas is more than a military fighting force. It's an idea, it's a movement, and it won't be possible to eradicate it. So the fighting, in fact, has intensified in Gaza. As you said earlier, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is getting worse. It's also, you can see from the pictures that we're looking at, it's cold and rainy out. And so in Gaza, you have Palestinians who have absolutely nowhere to go and are sleeping in the streets. And I'm sure they're even colder and rainier. Israel says that it's sure its hostages are also cold.
All right, then. We pray for better days ahead. But thank you, Linda Gradstein, the VOA's correspondent in Jerusalem.
Thank you.
More details now on the Israeli airstrike. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says at least 70 people were killed in the Al-Maghazi refugee camp in the center of the Gaza Strip. Well, officials say the death toll is likely to rise given the large number of families that have been living in the area. However, the Israeli military says it is looking into reports of that strike. This comes as Israeli and Arab media say Egypt, which borders the Gaza Strip, has put forward a new proposal for a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Dozens of injured people, were rushed from Maghazi to nearby Al-Aqsa hospital for treatment. Well, just like Linda had mentioned earlier, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has described the war in Gaza as a very heavy price for his country, but that his forces had no choice but to keep fighting. The Israeli military says 14 more soldiers have been killed in Gaza since Friday, bringing the total of the ground assaults to 153. More than 20,000 people have been killed in Gaza, mainly women and children, and 54,000 people injured since October 7th.
The Israeli Prime Minister's comment came on Sunday, a day after one of the deadliest days, where military authorities said 14 more soldiers were killed in Gaza on Friday, raising to 153 the number of Israeli soldiers killed in the war. Benjamin Netanyahu promised Israeli forces will continue with full force until the end, reiterating his goals of eliminating Hamas and ensuring the safe return of hostages held in Gaza. While addressing his cabinet on Sunday, he dismissed reports that the United States had convinced Israel not to expand its military activity. He said that as a sovereign state, Israel's decisions in the war are based on operational considerations. Earlier in the day, Army Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi visited Gaza battle sites as Israel fought to wrest full control of northern Gaza from Hamas militants. In a video released, he was seen walking through Gaza, speaking with soldiers and officers on the ground and being briefed in what seemed to be a house. From inside Gaza, however, smoke billowed over the Palestinian enclave as Israeli bombing continued in the northern part. Israel says it's achieved almost complete operational control over northern Gaza and is preparing to expand a ground offensive against Hamas militants to other areas. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called out Israeli forces on the modus operandi of the operation.
The real problem is that the way Israel is conducting this offensive is creating massive obstacles to the distribution of humanitarian aid inside Gaza. An effective aid operation in Gaza requires security, staff who can work in safety, logistical capacity, and the resumption of commercial activity. These four elements do not exist.
The UN says the Israeli military has kept up its bombing campaign in Gaza, ordering civilians to flee And as 150,000 people are affected by the war, the death toll continues to rise, according to Gaza authorities.
Well, the UN Security Council has approved a toned-down bid to boost humanitarian aid to Gaza that stopped short of a call for ceasefire, and it's hours after Israel signaled it is widening its ground offensive in the Palestinian enclave. The US, which is Israel's main ally, and had threatened to veto the Security Council motion during days of wrangling, chose instead to abstain after language was changed on hostilities and monitoring aid, and that's a move that let the vote go through.
Part is related to stopping the forced transfer outside of the Gaza Strip to Egypt.
In mind for the coordinator?
That's the choice of the Secretary General.
It was an intense few days of nearly 24-hour-a-day work, lots of phone calls, lots of text messages. My fingertips are tender from texting over the course of these few days. And as I always say, diplomacy is hard, but when you get the results are worth every minute of the hard work.
I think, again, putting people on the ground first and foremost in mind, it would be really easy just to go for rhetorical declarations and end without consensus where we adopt something. That doesn't help people on the ground. So I feel that what we have done will have impact, will save lives on the ground. And again, as I said in the Council, I have to thank the United States for their close collaboration, Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield for her close collaboration in trying to achieve that outcome. We had the goal of saving lives on the ground in mind. Of course, it was not a perfect resolution. Of course, everyone in this group has called for a permanent ceasefire, and we support what we put forward in the General Assembly that had 153 votes in favor for that ceasefire. And the UAE did submit that resolution less than 10 days ago, and it was not adopted. So we can go for declarations in the Council, or we can try and have impact on the ground for people who need it the most.
We, the Arab Group and the OIC, declared that we are working for 3 humanitarian objectives. 1, to stop this war against our people in the Gaza Strip, which means ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire now. And then 2 is to have humanitarian assistance up to scale. And in fact, operative paragraph 4, which our brothers in Egypt were pushing so hard for it, we trust that the UN to be responsible for the verification of thousands of truckloads in order to enter the Gaza Strip at scale that asked for by the SG, so that it caters to the needs of the Palestinian people in all parts of the Gaza Strip. And the third part is related to stopping the forced transfer outside of the Gaza Strip to Egypt.
Well, the entire 2.3 million population of Gaza is facing crisis levels of hunger, and the risk of famine is increasing each day. This statement is according to a UN-backed body that published a report last week. Well, the report by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, says the proportion of households in Gaza affected by high levels of acute food insecurity is the largest ever recorded globally. Trucks bringing in aid from Egypt have delivered some food, water, and medicine, but the United Nations says the quantity of food is just 10% of what is needed for the territory's inhabitants, most of whom have been displaced.
This report sort of confirms our worst fears in terms of the really, truly devastating situation which Gaza is experiencing right now. Pretty much all 2.2 million people are hungry, meaning that they are in crisis or worse food security situation. About 577,000, meaning more than 500,000 people, are already in catastrophic levels of hunger, meaning they're essentially starving. That is like 1 in every 4 people who's already starving. Just to put that in perspective in terms of the world, right now we have about 129,000 people who are in this type of catastrophic situations worldwide. And in Gaza alone, you have over 500,000 people, which is like 4 times more. And you know, what is really disturbing is not just the scale of this or the magnitude of this crisis, but also at the speed that it has happened.
Welcome back to the program. We're in Ukraine now, where Ukrainian faithful have attended a Christmas morning service on Monday, December 25th in Kiev's St. Sophia's Cathedral for the first time. Well, most Ukrainians are Orthodox Christians, and the country's main church agreed this year to move away from the traditional Julian calendar, which is used in Russia and celebrates Christmas on January 7th. Well, for many believers, celebrating Christmas on December 25 means not only joining the West, but distancing from Russia. Moscow's February 2022 attack rallied the nation in defense and sparked many Ukrainians to reject the Russian language and culture, among other historical ties to Kiev's former ruler. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky changed the law in July, saying it allowed Ukrainians to abandon the Russian heritage. All soldiers on the front line of Ukraine's war are also celebrating Christmas. Military chaplain visited on Sunday's Christmas Eve Ukrainian soldiers stationed near the frontline city of Kupiansk in eastern Ukraine. Soldiers from 14th Separate Mechanized Brigade first attended the service, led by Archpriest Ibion, and then shared Christmas Eve dinner together. Traditional meals like kutia, Ukraine's Christmas sweet grain dish, were on the table. And for President Volodymyr Zelensky, in his Christmas message, he's assuring the country of eventual victory over Russia. In the message released on Sunday, President Zelensky stands in front of the Kiev's famous Persk Lavra Monastery complex and speaks of praying for the end of the war, which began in 2022. For the first time, Ukraine celebrates Christmas Day on December 25 after Mr. Zelensky signed into law a parliamentary bill to abandon the Russian cultural and religious heritage and switch the official Christmas Day state holiday from January 7th to December 25, a move that is seen aimed at distancing the country from Russian traditions.
Вимітаємо ворога зі свого дому. Як тішимось, коли помічаємо в вечірньому небі
The VOA's Anna Chenikova in Kiev joins us now for more on Christmas in Ukraine. Hello, Anna. Merry Christmas to you.
Merry Christmas. Good evening.
How are Ukrainians celebrating today for the first time since, changing the date from January 7th to December 25?
Well, I should mention that back in history, if we look back in history, before 1918, before the Soviet rule, Ukrainians used to celebrate on the 25th of December. So it's not only getting away from Russian tradition, but also getting back to its roots, to Ukrainian roots. And a lot of Ukrainians, most part of Ukrainian society had a very strong desire of this change to the calendar for church to change the calendar, because the rest of the life is going on with a modern calendar. So Ukrainians wanted church to be also with the modern calendar, and this is the first year in a very long time that Ukrainians are celebrating Christmas with the rest of the world. I should say that in general, of course, Ukrainians are trying to create this Christmas mood as much as possible. Most of people who are able to celebrate with their family, with their closest and the loved ones, are celebrating within the family. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not have this treasure of celebrating Christmas with their families, either because some members of the family are at the front line, or at the occupied territories, or abroad due to war, or even some people lost their loved ones. But if we look in general, of course, cities are trying to keep at least Christmas tree available for people, for children, because of course, very important that children do have this Christmas miracle in their life despite war.
Indeed. And what more can you tell us, about the war that is approaching the second year, and tying it to, President Volodymyr Zelensky's Christmas message, assuring the nation that there will be eventual victory?
Well, it's almost 2 complete years of war, and of course, Ukrainians getting ready for a long-range battle and long-term battle. I should say that, of course, President Zelensky in his speech was trying to calm people down and to bring this inspiration to people, because a lot of different talks are within the Ukrainian society, especially after President Zelensky's final press conference of the year. A lot of different decisions have been made in terms of mobilization and in terms of the future of this war, of the plans for the future of this war. And people were really worried about after this press conference. So definitely President Zelensky was trying to inspire people and get a little bit of positivity. This is also understandable, because Christmas is about miracles, and this is exactly also what President Zelensky said, that Christmas is bringing miracles, and everyone in Ukraine is hoping for one particular miracle. And also with up to the 25th of December, the day is getting longer. So as President Zelensky also mentioned, that it's not only more light in terms of weather for Ukraine, but also more light in terms of war and battlefield. So these are hopes, definitely hopes of the whole society. But again, a situation, the battlefield is extremely, extremely complicated and tough, and not much is changing in terms of the front line. But due to the delay of the new aid and aid packages for Ukraine, of course, there are high risk that Ukrainians will have to move deeper to the defense. However, over the Christmas Eve and Christmas night, Ukrainians managed to destroy almost 30 drones that were launched by Russian forces across Ukraine, and even destroy 2 battle jets of the Russian forces. In this past week, 5 battle jets were destroyed by the Ukrainian forces, which also demonstrate that probably certain increase in the equipment has arrived, because this is some great result that definitely created some also positive thoughts for this Christmas period.
Indeed, Anna. Well, we pray for better days ahead. But in the meantime, on a lighter note, how are you celebrating the Christmas season?
Well, as many probably in Ukraine, I kept it with my family, and we stayed together for these 2 days. Of course, it's not much of celebration, probably more marking this, possibility of being together with the family and being safe. Of course, we are trying mostly to create this Christmas mood for our child, of course, and just to have this positive thoughts coming to the next year with us.
All right then, Anna Chernikova, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, we're moving ahead to more Christmas stories. In the U.S. now, President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden have visited the Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C., delivering a message of hope and the festive cheer of the night before Christmas. Embracing the holiday spirit, the couple sat on a stage designed to resemble a cozy living room, complete with Christmas decorations and gifts, captivating both young patients and their parents with a lively reading of the classic holiday tale. This heartwarming event continues a presidential tradition established in 2021, reflecting the President and First Lady's commitment to spreading joy and hope during the holiday season.
Come on, get up here. Come on, get up here. Sit in my lap. The mayor and I have I'm going to promote him. I'm going to make him a congressman. And look, I want to thank all the staff here. It's special what you do. And Mom and I, Jill and I spent time in the same like you parents did with our children and other circumstances. But, that old expression, there's life, there's hope. Hopefully you're all going to be here. Hopefully you kids are going to come back when you're out of the hospital and hang out with other kids who you know what it's like, right? Every single year, there's more and more cures coming. Every single solitary year. So as my father would say, keep the faith. We're going to beat all this. I promise you.
Yeah.
I promise you.
Our correspondent in Washington, D.C., Maria Bird, joins us now about festivities in the U.S. Hello, Maria. Merry Christmas to you. How are festivities going on in the U.S.?
Merry Christmas. Well, festivities are quite festive. It has definitely become a time of family, friends, and loved ones. Many things are closed today. Most things are closed today. You just have a few emergency stores that are open and obviously hospitals, but it's a time for people to really begin to focus in on their family and their loved ones.
And we
and
know,
celebrating the Christian holiday, the birth of Christ.
indeed, and we know it's usually a busy period for travel. I mean, how are airlines and, passengers coping?
Well, this is one of the busiest times that we have seen in many years, especially since COVID. This has had millions of people on the roads, airlines. We actually had, unfortunately, about 500 flights that were canceled here just the other day. We've had some challenging weather between snow and rainstorms, but that has cleared up some, and people have been able to make it to their destinations.
And finally, Maria, how are you celebrating?
Well, I am actually celebrating with my family, enjoying the holiday and being able to celebrate the real reason for the season. And so sharing gifts and love is really what I will be doing this holiday season. So Merry Christmas to all, and hope everyone is having a wonderful Christmas.
Indeed. Thank you, Maria Bird, our Washington, D.C. correspondent. Well, over in Britain, King Charles III and members of the British royal family attended a Christmas service at St. Mary Magdalene's Church on the Sandringham estate. King Charles arrived at the church accompanied by Queen Consort Camilla and his son Prince William, Catherine and their children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. Also present at the occasion were Princess Anne and her husband, Timothy Lawrence, Prince Edward, Duke of Edinburgh, and his wife Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, Prince Andrew, and also Sarah Ferguson. Away from Christmas stories, let's check in with, other stories making headlines across the world. Police in Serbia's capital, Belgrade, have used tear gas to disperse crowds protesting over alleged fraud in last week's general election. They intervened after some of the crowd outside the city hall smashed windows and attempted to force their way in. Opposition activists say police used excessive force on Sunday. They are saying that the government manipulated the elections won by the ruling party, but President Alexander Vučić says the allegations are rubbish and lies. The Green Left Front's co-leader, Radomir Lazovic, says officers beat him and a number of other people. More than 30 people are said to have been arrested during the demonstration and 8 police officers injured. And that's coming from the head of the Interior Ministry's police department. And on this Christmas Day in India, several cities across the northern region are shrouded in a thick layer of fog early amid cold weather. Streets in Srinagar, Amritsar, and the capital New Delhi have heavily reduced visibility, with pedestrians speaking of the fog so dense, causing trouble in identifying people and vehicles even from a short distance. In an update on social media platform X, the Indian Meteorological Department said dense fog is likely to persist over parts of northwest and central India for the next 3 to 4 days. And while India is trying to clear out a fog, China is witnessing its coldest December on record. The Chinese capital, Beijing, is experiencing its coldest weather since records began in 1951. Temperatures in the city have frequently fallen below minus 10 degrees Celsius this month. It has been a year of extremes in the capital. 6 months ago, Beijing recorded its hottest ever June day at just over 40 degrees. China has been hit by several waves of extremely cold weather already this winter. The Beijing Weather Observatory recently recorded more than 300 hours of below freezing temperatures in under 2 weeks, according to the state-backed China Daily News Agency. While the cold snap has affected provinces across the country, with schools in some areas being forced to close and transport services also facing difficulties. Thanks for staying with us. Back to our Christmas stories. In Australia, the threat of wild weather wasn't enough to turn away crowds celebrating Christmas at the iconic Bondi Beach. Our volunteer lifeguards wearing Santa hats kept a watchful eye over beachgoers who soaked up the hot weather and posed for photographs with a Christmas tree on the beach. Barely a cloud was seen in sight as thousands flocked to the sunny beach to celebrate the festive occasion the Australian way. The Bureau of Meteorology has warned people to stay on alert, telling local media that severe thunderstorms and wet weather is still predicted to impact much of the country's east coast.
It's all about family. So my sister's been travelling, we've come to see her, we love her, but the sun, it gives you a boost, you're joyful, and you've got to take those moments for what they are, a moment of happiness, and that's what Jesus would have wanted.
It's been really busy. I mean, we thought it was going to be average conditions, and we've actually had a really, really lovely day turn out, and the crowds have turned out en masse as well. So we're pretty busy at the moment, trying to keep everybody safe and going home to Christmas later.
Well, we need family time. It's a nice time to be together. And I think, it's with such craziness going on in the world. I mean, it's great to be with family.
For Christmas, we're all here, so absolutely amazing. No presents, but got these great blokes, so we're laughing.
It appears Santa is not only giving gifts, but is busting drug gangs in Peru. Peruvian police carried out a bust operation with the special help of Santa Claus in Hucal, near the capital, Lima. Video released by Peruvian National Police shows an officer from the Urban Intelligence Tactical Division, known as the Green Squad, dressed as Santa Claus, breaking down a door with a sledgehammer and helping to detain a suspect. Green Squad Chief Walter Palomino said the place where the drugs were being sold was hard to access, so the Santa disguise was used to get close to the scene without alerting locals to the police action. Local media said 2 men were eventually arrested, aged 25 and 32, for selling drugs. Well, Indian artist Sudarshan Patnaik has unveiled a sand art sculpture at the Eastern Puri Beach depicting a reclining Santa Claus and incorporating 2,000 kilograms of onions. Patnaik claims this is the biggest and probably the only onion and sand sculpture of Father Christmas in the world, measuring 100 feet long, 20 feet high, and 40 feet wide. The inspiration for this creation, he says, is climate change. Christmas is celebrated in parts of mainly Hindu India with much pomp and ceremony, and also by preparing special dishes.
This year we have created the world's biggest onion and sand installation Santa Claus, which is 100 feet long, 20 feet high, 40 feet wide sculpture. And we have used 2 tons of onion installed in sand. We given the message for the gifted tree, gifted plant, because Santa Claus giving this message to the society. We all knows about the climate change impact is going on. So this is the message for all of us.
Well, NORAD is repositioned its radars and satellites once again this year to track Santa Claus as he set out on his worldwide mission to deliver presents to children around the globe. NORAD is the North American Aerospace Defense Command. It's a joint operation between the U.S. and Canadian militaries, and it's responsible for guarding the skies over North America. But every year, the Santa tracker follows St. Nick's and his reindeer sled on their journey. Now in its 68th year, the Santa tracker has become a global phenomenon, with people around the world eagerly awaiting its launch every Christmas. The Santa tracking operation began early on Christmas Eve when NORAD says radar stations picked up an infrared signal emanating from Rudolph, Santa's favorite red-nosed reindeer.
You've been really busy today.
You're welcome.
You're so welcome. Merry Christmas.
It starts months in advance. A lot of work, great volunteers. So the men and women, to include civilian and military from the command itself, and many volunteers from the community and sponsors start in advance, and literally after tomorrow, they'll start planning for next year. That's how important this is for the community to enjoy. We have this opportunity to provide that's great, joyful, peaceful engagement with children around the world. Yeah, 68 years is amazing. And I think part of that, families that have the opportunity to connect their children with the idea of, peace and, positivity, stuff, I think there's no parent that would not want their kid to be part of that. And for me, as now the grandfather for a 2-year-old, this is my first time inside this headquarters. So it's my honor to be able to participate in the same way, because we know this can bring smiles to people. And there's one thing you can not have enough of is, a kid smiling, parents smiling, and bringing that family together for this special time. I think the part is we still don't know the magical capabilities. Like, how does Santa move so fast? We know he travels in a different time zone than we as normal people can track. So he moves much faster in a minute than our perspective of a minute. So his ability to kind of travel faster, that's how he can provide so many presents around the world in such a short period of time. And we still don't know how someone who's about 260 pounds can get down any chimney. But again, that's the magic of Santa Claus and kind of the spirit of Christmas.
And in Spain, thousands of Santas ran through central Madrid in a traditional charity race to raise money for the Red Cross. Children were not left out in the race, as they dressed as elves in green robes and ran in the 5-kilometer race along Madrid's Paseo de la Castellana Avenue. Well, organizers say the race is the largest of its kind in the world. Take a look.
They got up bright and early for the run. These are not professional Santas, just regular people donning Santa suits, all eager to participate in what has come to be known as the largest Santa run in the world. Santas in all shapes and sizes made their way to the finish line. Children who joined in wearing elves' costumes. According to one participant, Christmas gives you the spirit of participation and solidarity and union. There were no clear winners, but the fun of it all seems to have been the target.
And that's where we end the World Today. Thank you so much for watching on this Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to you. I'm Layo Olarinde.